Okay. Awesome. We're live. So let's wait for everyone to join. We will start in 2 minutes. Awesome. Yeah, it's a good question. Where is everyone tuning in from? Let me start from myself. Right now I'm in Brooklyn, New York. Where are you, everybody? Right. Boston, awesome. Virginia, Singapore. Cool. Welcome, welcome. Okay, welcome to our first session of Container Study Group. Oh my God, Vienna, Austria, it's awesome. So how's everybody? Thank you so much for joining us today. And I think we can start right now. Okay, so before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Mariia. I'm a DevOps engineer at Track 10, and I love everything related to containerized applications and building pipelines and Kubernetes. And I love to travel a lot and to meet new people. And you can find me on Twitter or Women Who Code Slack workspace. And I'm always happy to chat. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. And let me introduce you to Lorna. Maybe Lorna, tell a little bit about yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm excited you guys made it. My name is Lorna Tumuhairwe. I am based in Kampala, Uganda. I'm excited about containers. I just like tech. I like new stuff. I'm excited with novelty, I guess. So I'm always excited to pick up something new and use it and learn it. So I also like talking to people. So you can also ping me on Slack, and also, yeah, I guess in case you have good book recommendations, please let me know. Yeah. Also, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so today me and Lorna are going to discuss the fundamentals of and main points how to create production-ready images. But before we will jump to the content, let me give you a little background about Women Who Code organization. So Women Who Code is a global nonprofit organization dedicated to inspiring women to excel in technology careers. And the organization was created in 2011, and since then it expanded to 230,000 members all over the world. And we want to see women in technical engineers and founders, board members, and software engineers. And we want to, our target is engineers with 2 or more years of experience, looking for support and resources to help them level up in their careers. And just wanted to mention that for all events and digital platforms we use. We have code of conduct, and you can find it on Women Who Code website. But to sum it up, Women Who Code is an inclusive community, and we support members regardless of their age, gender, ethnicity, and we will not tolerate any harassment. And if you will witness or experience any harassment, please fill out the form on Women Who Code website, Code of Conduct. And so while the world is changing and we ask to be isolated, and let's connect digitally, and we will learn together, and we will facilitate each other to excel in what we're doing. And this study group was created in aim to learn about containerized applications, and every second Monday at 12 p.m. we will discuss how to create containers, how to orchestrate containers, how to monitor their applications, and other topics. And we encourage everyone to join our Slack channel, container study group, and we encourage everyone to share their thoughts, ideas, or projects projects you're working on, so we can learn together. And today we will talk about building production-ready images with Docker. And Lorna will tell us about Docker images, Docker containers. I will tell a little bit about the history of building Docker containers. And then we will jump to the demos where we will show how to build images for applications written in different programming languages. So let me give it microphone to Lorna. Now,
Thank you very much, Maria. So being our first session, I think we'll start with an introduction to Docker. So images and containers in general. So in case you have not had much experience with containers, I hope this introduction will bring you up to speed, and we'll talk about the techniques for building production images into the presentation. So yeah, what's an image? I think in case, so next slide, please. So next slide, please, Maria. So like when you choose to use, no, the previous one, yeah. When you choose to use containers, like maybe because maybe you're having, oh, so when you choose to use containers, maybe it's because maybe you're having like different dependencies from the ones that are running, or someone just gave you like an image and says, please run this image. Yeah. All you need is Docker running on your computer. Like that's the only requirement you need. Like that's the only requirement. So Docker runs the applications. It runs the application for you. So if you need to run the application, you will need a package which knows the dependencies and the file system, which the application needs to run on the host, right? So it's aware of all the files and all the dependencies and the runtime. And the runtime the application needs to run. So that package which you need is that package is the image. Next slide, please. So an image is a snapshot of all the components you need to run an application. So if at all it's, let's say, a front-end application with React.js, so you're going to need the Node.js runtime, so it's going to be there, and also the packages you need, and then the front end of, and then the code for your application. So those are going to be captured in your image, and this image can be used by someone else to run your application. So these images are made up of layers, and these layers can be shared between different images, and they can also be used between builds. So when you build an image, these layers can be reused again in case something has not changed. that layer can again be reused, and which saves you so much time and space actually on your computer. So so if you look at the slide, you realize that we have two images and which have like a shared base image. So so initially I mentioned that you can run different applications using Docker. So when these applications are running, they run in isolated environments. So these environments are known as containers. So an application running in its own environment is not aware of any other application running outside it, and no other application outside is also aware of it unless you explicitly expose the application. Next slide, please. So you can have different environments running from the exact same image, and each one of them will have a different host name, its independent IP, and both of them can be used by different. Both of them can actually interact with different other applications. Yeah, I guess that is my introduction. Thank you. So now next, the previous slide, please. Previous slide. Okay, yeah. So for us to build, the next slide, which has the file. Yes. So in Docker, if you have to build an image, you use a file called a Dockerfile. So on your left, you're going to see an example of a Dockerfile. So you always begin with a from command. I mean, you always begin with a from instruction. So the from instruction specifies like your base. This is like the beginning point of your file system. So because you'll need a file system to run your application, this is going to be like the beginning point. So the from instruction specifies the beginning point, and then you're going to specify the directory where your application will run inside that file system. So that work there instruction specifies that particular directive, and then you're going to copy your package.json file or package.log.json, which are files which contain the dependencies of your front-end application. This example is giving like an example of front-end application, and then you're going to install your dependencies, and then you'll copy all your files over from your host machine to the into the image. So that last CMD instruction specifies it specifies the command which your application which your container can use to start to execute by default. Like if someone runs it, if no other command is specified, it's going to run that command. So if you think about it, it may seem like gibberish, but if you think about it, like this is the exact same way you would build an image. I mean, you would run your application like on your host machine, even if you did not have Docker, because you have to have like your own machine, and then you go to a particular like place in your machine, and then you'll install dependencies, and then you'll actually run it. So like that is the order is actually the same, and you just need to like get used to it. So that what you see on the top of the file is like an example of how it is like the command you use in Docker to run an image. So it's Docker image build, and then you can give it a name using -t, which is it stands for tag, then front end, and then you can give it a version, which is like 1.0.0. It can be anything. Yeah, I guess I'll hand it over to you, Mariia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was awesome. Let's continue with, so now we discussed, Lorna told us about images, containers, and how we can build image and how we run the container, what command we will use. And now, before we will show you demos, we want to I want to tell you a little bit about the history of building images for production. So there is a term called build a pattern. And before Docker version 17, you have traditionally had to have a script and to multiple Docker files to keep your layers, aim to keep your layers as small as possible and to ensure that every layer has the artifacts it needed from the previous layer and nothing else. And it was actually very common to have so one Docker file where you build your application with all dependencies, and then you had to create a container from that Docker builder file. Then you copy the artifact from that container to another final image, and then you can run the container from that final image. But it required you to have a couple Docker files, script, and it was a little bit annoying. So, and then after Docker 17, version 17.05, the new feature was released, and it's called multi-stage build. And multi-stage build, it required Docker version 17 and higher on client and daemon. And then with multi-stage build, you use multiple from statements, the from statement that Lorna was talking about on each stage, and from instruction, you can use different base images, and each from statement starts in use stage, and you can selectively copy the artifacts from one stage to another, and leaving behind anything you wouldn't want to use in your final image. So now you can have only a single Docker file, and you don't need to separate build script. And one point to mention that stages, you can refer, by default, stages are not named. You can refer to them by integers starting from 0. But you can use as keyword and name your stages. And later we will show you how to do it. So now let's jump to the demo and let's see how to deploy a containerized application. And I have built a simple, very simple web application, and let me show you. So this is my simple web application, and you can find the code in this repo. I will send it into the chat, and then I will attach this to the video recording and to Women Who Code GitHub repo. So this is my simple web application, and as you can see, I have multiple parts. Like I have front end. I have front end is written in Vue.js. The backend is written in Go, and for database I use RDS, AWS RDS Postgres database, which is a managed database. So before we will go to Docker part, I want to tell you, like, show you a big picture and infrastructure I used. It's over here. Okay, so the front end part is uploaded to S3 bucket, and where I enabled web hosting, static web hosting for dist folder. And in front of the bucket, I have CloudFront. which is a service provided by AWS. It's a content delivery network, and it helps to improve the performance of the application by distributing my static website to end users. So behind the view and S3 bucket, I have application load balancer. So application load balancer routes the traffic to Docker containers, which reside in my ECS instances. It's Elastic Container Service. And my containers are created, my containers created from images, right? But I host my image in repository in registry. And sometimes you can, you probably heard about Docker Hub, but for this example, I decided to use ECR. It's also Amazon registry, Elastic Container Registry, where I host my image. And for database, as I said, I use RDS, Postgres, and I can see also my metrics and logs in CloudWatch service. So this was the big picture. ECR free. It's a good question. I don't remember. I think for storing images, it's free. But I know that Docker Hub, you can post your images there, and they provide, before they provide it on the public images, you can store like publicly, they are available to everyone, but right now they also have some free private repositories. So, and slides will be attached to this presentation too. So let's go. So this was the big infrastructure, picture to the infrastructure. And now I want to show you the part where I had to build the image and then to run a container from this, because this is the point of our presentation, right? And for this, I want to show you my code. Wow. So after you will go to this GitHub repo, you will see that I have a backend folder. In my backend folder, I have Dockerfile. So let's analyze our Docker file. So as you can see, I have got multiple from statements, and this is multi-stage build Dockerfile. And first stage, we will build my application using Golang base image, Golang Alpine. And I named this, it as builder stage. And what I do in this stage is I update my packages. I can also install different packages I need. I also here are building my application with command go build. Then I have another stage where I use a different base image. I use from Alpine, which is a small base image, but you can also use Scratch. It's very popular image, and then I copy the artifact from my first stage to this stage, and then I expose the port 8080, and the entry point is the command how I can start my application. And I started by running this command. I also have environment variables for these applications, and instead of hard coding all host names, ports, I prefer to save them in separate file. And for this example, you can find I didn't upload it to GitHub because you don't supposed to upload them to GitHub. But in general, this is environment variables I save here in Docker. So, okay, this is our Docker file. Now we will go, first we will build an image, and then we will run the container, but not somewhere on the server right now. We will run it on my computer. Let me show you. So let's go to my terminal. And so I'm in my folder backend. Where is my Docker file? And to create an image, you run the command, as Lorna said before, docker build tag. I hope you can see my screen. Docker build tag. And let's call it the image my simple app and tag 10. Okay, Docker build. Oh, and don't forget the dot. It means here. Okay, so here you can see the steps that were performed to build this image. So step first to pull the base image, then to run and install all dependency you need. And after we see that we successfully built the image and we successfully tagged the image, now we can, for example, push this image to our registry, our repository, or we can test, for example, and to run it on our computer. And for this case, if you want to run a container on your computer, you can run a command docker run. Don't forget your environment variables, and I will pass them as a file, env file .envdb. Open the port on my host machine. It will be 8080, and in container it's 8080, and the name of your image, which was my simple app, I think 10. Okay, so we started our container, but let me quickly to start my front-end part too. And it's also in development mode, so yarn serve. Okay, so by the way, I wanted to mention that Golang, Go programming language, is very good for containers because it can compile to one executable. And now we can go to our browser, and now you will be able to see this application running on your computer. So, okay. This is how you run your containers. And now I think I will finish this. And you can see just in case I attached my Docker file and the slides in the presentation. And now I will give, now Lorna will show us the demos she wrote.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Maria. So I'm going to, okay, I'm going to, I think I'll demo. I have, okay, I'm going to show my screen. I'm going to show my screen. So I'm having a problem with my, okay, hold on. Okay, a minute, please. My screen sharing settings have. Okay, let's see. Let's try this again. Okay, I think we are good now. Okay. I'm going to share my screen again. So I'm going to try to share my screen again. Yeah. So I hope you can all see my screen. So yeah. So the application the demo I prepared was, it has both front end and back end. So we decided to prepare different examples for different languages. So right here, you're going to find two multi-stage builds. One is going to be showing an Elixir Phoenix application, and then another one is going to be showing a React.js application. So I put this is the link. I think I'll just drop it in the chat, and then let me see. I'll drop that in the chat, and then yeah. So you'll notice that there are links here. So when you go to these links, you'll find commands for building these applications. I mean for building the images. So so there's one for the backend, and then there's one for the front end. I've specified how you would build this image for dev and for prod, and then also that's for the. Okay, let me hide these floating controls. Okay, and then also you'll find the commands for the front end build. So let's run this. I hope my screen is clear, a bit clear. So on the right, you'll see the build in Elixir. So Elixir can also compile into an artifact. So Elixir compiles into files which can run on the Erlang VM. So when you make a release, it's actually going to produce a file and put it in a folder called build prod, and then release, and then it will give you the name of the application which you can copy it from. So I'll begin from the top. So I picked start from an Elixir 1.10 image based on Alpine because it's a small image. I definitely, this is the way I prefer to keep builds small, and I feel like a large part of the community also does the same. Then I specified this environment variable at the top because it's not really a secret, so I can put it there. But you'll notice that if you look at, like, this is something you can override by passing in environment variables when you're running your container. So that's nothing to worry about. And then also, then I specified the directory in the image where I would like to build the image. So specified that inside this image, we are going to go to this particular directory, and then I installed the package managers for, which is Hex and then Reba. And then first is just making sure that it doesn't ask whether you want to say yes or no. So that's all it does. So, if you notice, I combined these two these two commands. So run actually just runs commands. That's all it does. So when I do like a mix, when I run this command and then I also want to run this command, I could have run them on separate files, but instead we combine them to make sure that, because every single instruction you gives you different layers. So if you want to reduce your layers, you can combine commands. Like I could have run this on different commands, but this is another way of combining them. like this is, but this is mostly, this is Elixir syntax. Then I copied in the files which have the dependencies, and then I built, and then I fetch the dependencies from wherever they are on the internet, and then compile them, and then I copied the files on the machine. So if you look at this, if you look at my folder structure and where this Docker file is located, this Docker file is inside this particular folder. It's inside Weather API. So by this, sorry, let me backtrack a little. This particular application just fetches data from an API and just shows it on our front end. That's all it does. So the backend is the one which is fetching the data, and then the front end is consuming that application. So if you look at, so the first step is making sure that these are like the first steps. Like I need the application, like I have a base, and then I have the environment, and then and then we have added the dependencies and copied in the files. And we have the dependencies installed, right? So I've gone to the second stage. So this second stage, the only thing it's doing is compiling and making a release. So in the release, it's going to make sure that this application has the runtime it needs to actually run, right? And then for me to run, so I can actually stop, like you can stop on whatever image you want to run on. And then even like when it comes to the release, like I specified that we can begin from like on the stage you're at, you can begin from any image, any point you want. So like in this particular build stage, I used the base as my beginning point. But here I began from an Alpine 3.11 image. And then I copied from the build stage. I went back to the build stage and copied the files which have been compiled, which have been generated from this stage, and copied them in the home directory of the Alpine image. And then I'm running the application with that command. That's all that's happening. So I would like to, so when I come to the, if I can open inside this README, inside the README right here, I have the commands I can use to build those. Though, okay, I'll do that. So I would like to show two things that we can, okay, you see, right now I'm on the top level directory, but then I'll need to go to the wither, sorry. So I'll run that. So right now this image I'm beginning from Docker image build. I'm targeting to stop at the base stop. So it's going to run up to this, sorry. It's going to run up to here. And that's where it's going to stop. So I had built some of these images prior so that it doesn't take so much time, or depending on the internet connection. So you'll notice so the Docker file is sent to the daemon, and then also the files which have the context. So it will tell you the data sent, that's 63.49, and then you can see it has stopped on 6 out of 7. It has stopped on stopping on the seventh step, right? And then so as it builds, it shouldn't take very long. It has actually downloaded them. It's just compiling them. So I will just move this. I'll split my screen and do the same for the front end. So for the front end, it is same thing. It goes to the beginning from a Node.js image. I've named it a dev step, gone to the front end directory inside the file system of the container, and then copied in my dependencies. And then I would like to install the application. I would like to install that dependencies, and then I've copied in all the files. So I would like to like the next stage is for npm run build, which is it's going to build for you the artifact with Webpack, and then we are copying the artifact from Webpack into our Nginx web server, and then we are going to run the application with that command. So we are going to do the same thing for this. So I would like to build. I'm going to also build it up to the dev stage. I'll go to, sorry. Yeah, then I'll build it from there. So some of these things had already been, see, let's just thing I had mentioned earlier about the layers. So it's reusing some of these because they were already there. So it's going to run all that, and then it's going to finish up. So I'm also going to build. I'm building 2 images right now, both for the dev. I'm building up 2 images, both one up to the dev stage, and then one up to, and then also the production image. So you notice for the production image, I'm not putting the tag because it's going to run the entire file. Sorry, it's going to run like the entire file. So looks like this one has also finished building. So I'm going to build I'd like to show the differences between the 2 files, especially when it comes to file sizes. Maybe it would be something good to appreciate about them. And then also this one, I'll copy this file and then also paste it right there. So this one has finished building. You notice it started, like, if you notice, it did not take long because it had already it had already installed the dependencies, and then now it had already copied the dependencies, and then now it just had to do the build. Then I'll do the same for the front end. So we are going to build, it's going to compile the application, and then it's saying it's creating an optimized build, production build, then copying it to the Nginx server. So on this side, I'd like to show like the difference between these images. So I'm going to say so you notice I have 2 images. One, because I built for, if you look at these commands, the commands I used, I built the API for the dev, and then also, for the dev environment, which stopped on the build stage. So like that's how you'd run it if you're running it on your development environment, and then also the one for the prod. So the prod one, it is 19.6 MBs. Then this one is 103 MBs. So you notice that if you were going to deploy an application, you wouldn't want to have this one of 103 MBs, because like for you to deploy, like you want your application to go live as fast as it can, and if it's going to download 103 MBs, it may take a bit of time. We shall do the same for this, and probably then we shall see front end. So you see they have built. You'll notice that this one, which is small, is 22 MBs. This one is 330 MBs. So you definitely want to do the multi-stage, because the reason why you do a multi-stage is so that you can only have you can have only what you need. Like when I'm working in development and I'm working on Elixir, I do not need, like, I need Mix for development, like this build tool. I need it for development, but in production, I don't need it there. So when you remove those tools which you need for development, and instead you only leave the things which you need for production, you end up having an image which is small enough for you to use, which is small enough for the server to run, and it will be very efficient. So I'll run, I can run this. I have the commands ready here. So, okay, I think I'll begin with the prod prod build. So I, just as Maria said, you expose the port, specify the image you want to run, it's running there. And then also, I should probably have begun with the server, but anyway. Then also I've begun, then I'm specifying the prod container. I'm specifying the environment file, which is .env.local. It contains the API key and the secret key for the, I just opened them. It contains the secret key based on the other API key. So yeah, that's all that is there. So I'll also run it right there. So as it runs, you see it has just begun. They have begun building. So I can always, this was port 8080. A minute. So yeah, it's showing, like by default, I put the city to be Kampala, where I am right now. So I can change it. I can change another city, and it's showing me that Nairobi is at 19 degrees. And so that is how your production build would run. The dev build can also run. It's going to be, it's the exact same thing, just I'm using like a different, I'm just using a different image. But you'll notice something like for the Elixir application. And if you notice, I did not put a command here, but I had to specify a command at the end because by default, it's going to use the command I had specified right here. But right now, because it's still a development build, it cannot really use this command. So I've specified the command which it can use, and that's how you override this command. And then you can also, now you see, like this is what like the production environment did not need to do all these things because it's now again compiling. So I'll also run the front end. Sorry, add them right here. So what I had, like if you look at the as this one builds, like if you look at my folder structure, I had added a Docker compose file to help me like run, like I did not need to run like both of these commands at the same time. I could have used like the Docker compose file to run everything at the same time, like with one command, and I had specified a make file to help me like do that. So in case you want to like give it a shot, you could just do like the make build and then the make run, and then you'd see like your dev setup, I mean your production setup up and running properly. And then also, if you wanted, you could also have run like the dev build. Like I did not need to like this would help you not have to specify both the front end side and then the back end side differently. Like instead of doing these things separately, I could have done them like at the same time. Yeah, and this one should be about to finish. And then I'll run this particular one, which is the dev. See, I'm running this dev. See, it has generated the application. I'm running the development version, as you can see. And then yep, so it looks like we are good to go. And so it may be showing that it's running on 3000, but when we ran the application, we specified 3001. So yeah, you have to keep that in mind. I run that, it has come, so it's now running. So once again, when I specify another city, it's going to show me. Let's try another city, maybe New York, where Maria is. It's showing that it's clear sky, maybe because it's during the, but yeah. That is, I think I've come to the end of the demo. I will remove my screen sharing. Oh, could you? Yeah. Yep. I think I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Cool.
much. It was really awesome. Before we will jump to the question.
Well, we're going to questions now. Okay, because I just saw a question. I was not seeing the questions. So maybe I'll answer Margot later.
Well, you maybe read some questions. Let me tell you, let me sum up everything we've discussed. Okay, so and let me share my screen. Okay, so we've seen a couple examples of Dockerfiles, and we've seen that some stages they start from the using from instruction, and so we also can see that Dockerfile, it's actually like a file system, right? Where you build layers, and sometimes you want to reduce the size of your image, right? And you sometimes need to be thoughtful about how to run your commands and how to build these layers. And sometimes there are different practices, like Lorna said, about combining some instructions in one run instruction by using two ampersands, and this will help you to reduce the number of layers. So we also discussed multi-stage builders, and there are also a lot more to cover. And for example, we can use Docker ignore files file, so we will not include some files that we don't want to use. And there are a lot of recommendations. You need to read what base images you use, make sure that you provide all needed parameters, and use proper tags, and use labels. You don't want to put your secrets and this is what we didn't cover a lot of this, but this is what we are going to cover in our next sessions, and that's why I really encourage you to join our Slack channel, container study group in Women Who Code Cloud Track, and also show your projects or post your questions and get involved in our community. You know, we will post some videos and of past events, or we will show what we are going to talk on our next presentations, and also maybe we will discuss new articles and book reviews, for example, and so stay connected and join us. We will attach all slides and our projects to this video and to the GitHub repo of Women Who Code, and we will post it in our Slack channel. So let me stop sharing, and maybe if you have a question or you want to, or you have any ideas, just let us know. And also, definitely, I'm sure you probably seen documentation in Docker. They have different examples of how to write a Docker file, for example, for other languages we didn't cover. For example, they have example for Ruby and they also have example for Postgres, although I wouldn't suggest to run your database in image or in a container, but they also provide this example, maybe for development mode. So definitely try that. And also we had idea with Lorna about starting the quiz in our study group channel. So we, for example, will have like a couple questions and about, for example, what the difference between entry point and command. And for example, there are some tricks with commands, add, copy. Sometimes, you know, it's fun to have this quiz in our channel. So join us there and we will try that. Okay. That sounds awesome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely try this. And okay, the question about your API keys in repository. You don't save your API keys in repository. So you usually pass them as env variables. This is what I do. I pass them as variables because first of all, they can be dynamic, and of course you don't want them to be exposed. That's why when I was running the command in my container, I passed the env file to this container. Okay. Thank you. So thank you so much for joining us today and join us our community, and looking forward to see your questions, feedback in our channel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye. Bye.